Welcome to this week's edition of the Dugout Dish Podcast. I am Andy Kirikides, joined by my wonderful co-host Keith Glasser. How we doing?
Great. How are you?
Good, man. We are going to do our end of the college baseball season roundup. LSU just took down their 8th national championship in program history. Their second in the last 3 years. We got Tampa winning another Division II title in somewhat extraordinary fashion with a comeback. And we also got, was it UW Whitewater? Took down the Division III, am I correct?
They did.
So we got our national championships tied up. Definitely some things to discuss here as we get into the quote-unquote off season of college baseball. But give me some of your thoughts on the College World Series, Coach.
I guess first and foremost, the heartbreaking loss that the Razorbacks suffered before we get into the finals, because we'll probably talk about that a little bit and get into it. But not to say that Arkansas was going to win the national championship. Obviously, it was my pick, and Jonathan, who couldn't be here tonight, stood with LSU and knocked it dead with his pick. But that was a tough loss. Like, that was very, very reminiscent of the national championship series, a handful of years ago, where, you had a 2-run lead starting the bottom of the 9th, and you had the first baseman ranges a little bit, too far to his right to get that ball. We damn near throw it in the dugout. Runner gets the second. We get an out. I think there was a walk, and it's first and second with 1 out, and you get what seemed to be a tailor-made double play to end that game, and we take the force at third. Now, you can't I'm never going to fault the kid for taking it out in a 2-run game and keeping can't assume the double play, right? But we might have spun it. But 2 outs, up to bottom 9 with runners on first and second, and that poor kid falls down. Horrible. Just falls down, takes it off the shoulder, ball ricochets. Like, that could have done a million different things. You know what I mean? Like, that kid falls and it hits him. Like, that could literally just fall right in front of him. And you pick the ball up and throw it in, and you're still up 1, and there's a runner on, first and third with 2 outs. And you have a fighting chance. Instead, the ball kicks, they score 2, runner gets the second, and then second baseman leaps for that ball, and that's a tough play to make. But he gets a glove on it. You're an inch or 2 the other way, and you catch that baseball, and you force that winner take all game. So I thought that was a super tough loss for them. That was a phenomenal baseball game, back and forth. I thought I was surprised with Oregon State, obviously another one of my picks, kind of going 1 and 2. I thought they would have a tad bit of a better showing. At the end of the day, Omaha is impossible to get to and super tough to win in. So it's not, take nothing away from them. I just think that it was a little bit more, I thought that they would have ran the table a little bit better. That's all. And that, at LSU, once LSU won on Saturday night, I texted you guys because we were all watching it, and I thought that I said LSU to the moon tomorrow. And obviously it was a far better game than I kind of anticipated it being. That Coastal team's really good. They can pitch, they can defend, they can hit, they're tough. Really good team. LSU earned every ounce of that national championship in that series. I know it doesn't necessarily look that way because they only won 2 games, but I mean, you got a 1-0 CG out of the Anderson kid. Like, I mean, it's the biggest stage in college baseball, game 1, and you go out and go CG against that offense who was on a 26-game win streak. Like, that's like, you might never buy a drink in Baton Rouge ever again when you go back to visit. That, like, it's that impressive. And I'm sure we'll get into this after you kind of give your thoughts, but the Kevin Schnall getting ejected, again, we'll get into it, but that's can't happen in that spot. But I'll give my thoughts on that in a couple minutes. But that overshadows what was two really good baseball teams that were able to flip the switch and play really good baseball for 18 innings of those first two games in a 1-0 and 5-3 ball game. So unfortunately, that does overshadow it. But all in all, I thought it was, there wasn't any games that I watched where I was like, what is going on here? Like, they were all super competitive, really tough nosed games that I enjoyed watching. And I'm, sad that we don't get college baseball for, a number of months at this point in time, but it was a hell of a way to end this season.
Yeah, there's a couple things that stuck out to me, and I won't double up too much on what you said. 'Cause I think obviously the Arkansas game was just, yeah, it was heartbreaking to watch it unfold the way that it did. I also would have paid money to watch those two teams play one more time. So selfishly, I really wanted Arkansas to win that, so we got a winner take all to go to the finals. But I mean, just some of the talent that's getting run out. I mean, think of the shortstops who were playing in that, right? And I'm sure I'm going to leave a couple guys out, but you got the Milam kid for LSU who he's just got a knack for it, right? He's so calm, and that kind of defines that LSU team, in my opinion. I'll get to that in a second. You got Ivar Cat, you got Alloy, you got the Chwalski kid from UCLA. I mean, this is a heck of a run of just some premium, high end performers at that position, and those were just the guys that really stuck out. Like the Alisea kid from Louisville is a fantastic player. But I thought defense was the thing that stuck out to me, right? You mentioned Oregon State, a team who for 60 games had been absolutely nails defensively. Defense is what ultimately put the nail in the coffin for them. And then you look at a team like LSU, they're flawless. Make big plays in big spots. I mean, what the Braswell kid did at third base for that whole to get one hit in the College World Series, and you could legitimately argue that that guy was as important as anybody else on that LSU team in that tournament. I mean, some of the plays he made in that 1-0 game, the bump play, just absolutely unbelievable. He throws from the dirt. It's a perfect bunt. He makes a perfect play. Him ranging to his left and making that crossbody throw. I mean, that kid did some stuff defensively that it basically allowed LSU to win those games. It was really that simple. Like he chucks that bunt up the line, that's a completely different game. And I think it highlights some of the stuff that we've talked about previously on the podcast, that you want to play college baseball, like you better be able to defend. Right? We get so caught up in the exit velos and all that kind of stuff. And Matt Hobbs, who obviously is the pitching coach at Arkansas, mentioned it when he was on the podcast with us. It quickest way on the field at Arkansas is to be able to play defense. Got to be able to play defense, and I think that really, really showed up. Star power certainly played a factor. I mean, what Cade Anderson did in those two starts, the back-to-back starts against Arkansas and against Coastal, just that's every bit as good as what Mr. Skeens did 2 years ago. Just absolute dominance. I think the thing that stood out to me with his starts, though, he had it going against Arkansas. He didn't have his good stuff for a good portion of that Coastal game. He was having trouble with some fastball command stuff early in the game. He was able to find the strike zone with his breaking ball a bunch, which gave him a little bit of rope. But you look at that stat line and you go, oh, that dude was cruising. He was battling his butt off that whole game. Pitched out of a couple jams, didn't have his absolute best stuff. And I think that speaks to the character of that kid and the composure of that kid, which I think ultimately defines that LSU team. They just never seemed like they were playing in a big game. And I mean that in the best way possible. They're playing in these super tight spots. And those kids play like they're at practice. It's calm. It's composed. They don't get shook up when stuff happens. Like it was really impressive to see the character of that team and how they just go about their business. And I think that's what separated them in the tournament period. I think it separated them in the final. Coastal was really emotional to start that game. starting with the coach, right? With Coach Nall. And LSU is just calm as a cucumber, right? Jay Johnson handled the Dickinson kid getting hit and getting called out. Like, hey, all right, move on. And I thought it was a defining characteristic for that LSU team. And to piggyback on that, I'm wildly impressed with how these kids are able to perform on a stage like that. And I think that might get lost on viewers at times, that you've got 18-year-olds playing in front of 25, 30,000 people, and they're able to perform. And I think it's hard to connect with that if you haven't been in that situation. I've never played in front of 25,000 people, but I have coached in those SEC environments. I've coached down at Ole Miss, played at Mississippi State, played at LSU. It's a different feel. It's a different pressure. It's a different intensity. And what those kids are able to do and how they're able to perform and put their best foot forward in those situations, it takes a unique person to perform at that level. It's not just that those guys are all supremely talented, but it takes a unique individual for that talent to show up in that environment. And Jay Johnson said something early on in the season. He was speaking about the Ianson kid, and I thought it was a pretty poignant statement where he said, "We need men in our program. We don't need boys." And he needs men because he needs men that can perform in the situation that they just had to perform in. And that just continues to astound me as long as I've been involved with college baseball the last 20 plus years or whatever. I'm continue to be blown away at these players' ability to stay in the moment, stay calm, and play incredibly high level baseball in the most pressure packed situations there is. So that was something that really stuck with me watching those games. Just, I mean, you got freshmen leading off the national championship game, the Curiel kid, right? You got Cam Flukey's a sophomore. That kid's 19 years old, and he toes the rubber like he's pitching there in a simulated game with nobody in the stadium. Like, it's just it's so impressive. It really is.
Yeah, sorry for the pause. I was on mute here. No, I thought that they handled everything as better than you could ever expect it to be handled, right? And I think that the Coach Nall ejection, I think my knee-jerk reaction is that let me break this down from a coaching perspective. Okay, this is where I get frustrated. I watched his press conference. I've seen that video 1,000 times because it's all over my feed. First and foremost, let's just get it out of the way. He didn't bump the field umpire. That dude did clearly trip over the umpire. The issue that I have is that the two of them are both guilty of escalating the situation. Do I think it was a quick trigger to dump him? Yes, I do. I do think it was a very quick trigger in the first inning of the national championship game to dump him. I do. 1,000% I do. Do I think that he should have been dumped? Yeah, like you can't necessarily come out of the dugout screaming that you've missed 3 pitches already and not expect to get dumped after you've been warned for arguing balls and strikes. That said, we've all said worse things that we didn't get dumped on. My issue, and this is the crux of my issue, is that he gets warned. And he is 1,000,000,000% correct when he asked for what. That umpire looked at him and did shoo him back to the dugout. And that right there escalated the entire situation. When you warn a coach, especially the head coach, you're supposed, like, as I don't know what the actual umpire rule is, but every experience that I had, and I have been warned multiple times, every experience I've had, the umpire will stand there and say, "Do you understand?" or something like that, to where if I want to go out and ask why we got warned, because there are situations, right? There's things that I say that I get warned for that, like, I'm looking for a warning. So no, I don't need an explanation. But if I'm coaching third base and all of a sudden the umpire is like, "That's a warning," to my dugout, I want an explanation as to why we just got warned. What happened? So you can walk down and you get an explanation. I have never, in the 16 years I coached college baseball and the 4 that I played, so 20 plus years, I've seen one umpire. He threw me out of a game years and years ago, and then there was an issue years later. But I've never seen an umpire issue a warning, and then when the coach asks for what, legitimately shoo him back to the dugout and tell him, essentially saying, like, "Get back in the dugout, you don't get an explanation." And like, that escalated the situation right there. Like, if you've been in this game, if you ever coached, you've coached at a high level, that right there, I don't care who you are, is going to set you off. And I do think he was looking for it. I think umpires look for that stuff. And this is the problem. You can't then, and it happens, like, he baited him into getting ejected. So he shoot him back to the dugout. Coach got pissed, came walking out, told him he missed 3 pitches already, auto dump, right? Like, by the rule, that's an auto dump. It's going to happen. The problem is, and I haven't seen it, so maybe someone who's listening out there when this drops on Thursday has seen it. The problem that baseball coaches have, by and large, with a lot of this stuff, whether it's the Major League Baseball, whether it's minor league baseball, whether it's college baseball, whatever, these umpires are not held to account for those situations. Like, he doesn't have to talk to the media. He doesn't have to answer any questions. He's shielded by 57 layers of people. They can do whatever they want with absolutely zero repercussions and accountability. And it happens at all levels. And I get it. Like, there's so many umpires that you can use, but there are ones out there that do want to do this. And they're going to bait you into it. They're going to dump you. And there's zero accountability for what goes on. And I've had a problem with it for a very long time. And it overshadows what is, becoming probably the third biggest sport at the college, behind football and basketball. Like, it overshadows 2 really good baseball games, 2 really good baseball teams playing for the national championship. And we're talking more about this than we are about the things that you and I touched on about what we're taking out of this World Series. And that sucks, because there's literally no reason. There is, I don't know. I hope we have umpires that listen to this that email us and tell me I'm wrong. I was a head coach. I was an assistant. Never in my 16 years did I see an umpire shoo a coach, a head coach nonetheless, back to the dugout after warning them and not giving an opportunity for an explanation. Like, at some point, that has to be acknowledged, that is something that escalated the situation. You can't say it wasn't. And I don't know if Coach Null reacts the way that he does. If they warn him and he stands there and he walks out and says, "What are we warned for?" You're warned for arguing balls and strikes. Anyone else who argues balls and strikes again is going to be dumped immediately. Okay, got it. You can go back to your dugout and you can say, "Hey, nobody say anything to the umpire, because he's got a quick trigger. You're all going to be run out of here, and you can't help us win if you're not in the dugout." And it's simple, but that immediately escalates the situation, which is immediately going to have the coach be like, "You've already missed 3, so now he's already looking to dump you. Now you're gone." And then, it is what it is at this point. It bothers me that this overshadows what otherwise was a very good tournament. But I just think that they're both responsible for the ultimate outcome. But Coach Nall has to sit up there and answer questions and talk about it. And I thought he did a phenomenal job, to be honest with you, talking about it. Like, I think that he did a very good job explaining what was going on. And if you've coached at this game, specifically at the college level or above, like, you understand what he's saying. But I just think that, like, umpires that just do not get held to any account or, don't have the responsibility to talk about it. It's absurd to me that like you can do this and then be like, no, nope, he's fine. He's that he doesn't. He just altered what and I don't know, right? Like you threw the head coach out. Like as a head coach, you're not necessarily like you're not playing the game. Like maybe you're calming in the dugout. You may have done some different things, but like at the end of the day, like he didn't play the game. Like they still got to go out there and play. But like that becomes a huge point in the game and a huge talking point after the game. I mean, we were still talking about it in like the 7th or 8th inning, like, and the amount of stuff that they were trying to throw out there. Like, I just, again, you can probably tell by like, I've had certain things like this happen in my career. If you coach long enough, like you run into these types of things, and I just think that there's got to be a better way to stifle some of this stuff, right? Like there's got to be a better way to not have something like that happen in the future. Like what's the process for this? And we don't know. I coached college baseball for 16 years. You know how many times I wrote up umpires for not being good? And it's not like it's nothing personal. Like sometimes you have a bad day umpiring. That's okay. We all do. But like we get the same guy the following day. Like I don't know if they even read the write-ups, and I don't know. Like it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. I just think that in situations like that, and it make no mistake, this happens in Division III non-conference regular season games. Like it happens more than I think people think that it does. But like, I think that's the problem, and there's no accountability from the official side of things, and I think that's what rubs a lot of coaches the wrong way when things like this happen. And listen, 98% of the time you're going to have zero issues, but it's that 2% when you do, and it continues to happen, and it's just like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, the accountability thing, you freaking nailed that. Right, that's probably the biggest frustration from a coaching perspective of like how that all went down is that dude doesn't have to answer to anything. If you come out of the dugout past the warning track and you come out with some emotion, you're running the risk of getting tossed. I don't care who the umpire is. And I mean, I think that it's such a tough thing to try to be critical of because, you're not in that situation. And obviously, Kevin Schnall is at the top of the food chain when it comes to coaching, what he's done with that team. What he did this year, like, cannot go understated, right? I mean this in the best way possible, but they were not the most talented team in that College World Series. I would honestly say that they were probably the only team they were probably more talented than, top to bottom, is Murray State, and I think that just speaks volumes to the character of those kids, his ability to coach, his ability to get the most out of those guys, the identity that they have. Like it's an incredible job by him. But if you leave that dugout with any kind of emotion, you're running the risk of getting run. And I think it's tough to put yourself in the situation to get run in the first inning of that game. I'm sure he may not think that way, but just a tough spot to let the emotion get the best of you. With that being said, and like this is a classic case of like two things can be true at once. That umpire was just way too quick on the trigger. Period. I will say this for the other people who are watching, Schilling should have got dumped way before he did. And the reason is that as an assistant coach, you can't talk to umpires at all outside of like cordials. Like that is a well-known rule. I actually thought the rope they had with Schilling was way longer than it needed to be. I think that Schnall, the only reason that Schnall got to where he was is because of how it escalated so quick, and he was warranted in that extended argument, in my opinion. you go get your money's worth at that point. Like,
Well, I thought the other thing that was interesting too, not to cut you off, but I thought he did a good job in his press conference of saying like I wasn't even arguing getting thrown out. After that, I was arguing that I didn't bump the umpire. Like
yeah,
I was arguing that I didn't even touch him. It had nothing to do with getting thrown out of the game. It was like I wanted to be very clear that I did not touch the umpire.
yeah,
And I thought, he may have gotten some other words in there, but I think, like, I do think that, I think there's a lot of truth to that. Like, if I saw a guy fall that I didn't touch and he put his hand up saying that I bumped him, like, I would be very mad. Like, I didn't touch you, like, because that carries a lot more with it than just, a regular ejection suspension.
he's
So,
out
like,
he's out for the first 2 games of next year now.
yeah, I don't agree with it. If you want my honest answer,
No, it's
I don't agree with it. I think that it was a super quick trigger. I agree. Like when in today's game, when you leave the dugout like that yelling, you run the risk of being thrown out. But again, I think it goes back to the original. You get warned, you should get an explanation
yes,
and not shoot and told to go back to the dugout. Like
100%.
I want to know what my explanation is. And if you're going to do, like, if you were going to do that as an umpire, you have, like, if you're going to shoo the guy back to the dugout and tell him he doesn't get in it, like, I just feel as though if that's what you're going to do, you can't have that quick of a trigger. Like, you have to own, so, and I don't know the guy, like, I have no idea if he feels this way or not. Like, I don't care. This is just all my years of baseball. I think that if that's what you're going to do, you then can't just, like, you're baiting it. To me, it's you're baiting somebody into more.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're baiting him to come out of the dugout so that you can dump him immediately. And it was quick. That was quick. He gave him this. Schnall came out and told him he missed 3, and it was boom, you're gone. Like, that was quick.
When you say,
but I agree. As an assistant, you do know, and Coach Schnall did touch on this. Like, as an assistant, you cannot. And you know this. Every assistant in the country knows this. You cannot say anything to the umpires, especially in those situations. You can't do it. You're running the risk of getting thrown out of the game very, very quickly. And if they dumped him that quickly, you're probably going to go very quickly shortly thereafter if that's what you're going to do. So, like, it is what it is. Like, I'm not, like, I think it's one of those things where, like, yeah, I probably got away from them a little bit, but, like, I thought that was a tad bit over the top. Like, at the other side of it too, and, like, I don't know them. I'm not trying to speak any negativity towards them. Like, if your head guy just got dumped, like, you kind of, like, you don't want to go too, because at some point, like, you got to have more than just 1 or 2 other guys in the dugout who have been there coaching all year. Like, you got to have at least 3 of you in there. Like, that just is what it is. Like, and I told that to my assistants when they coached under me. Like, if I go, you guys can't say anything because you can't lead. I need more people in the dugout being able to focus on things. Like, let me go and you guys can handle the rest of it. But, it is what it is.
Obviously, hindsight's 20/20, but I've seen umpires handle similar situations like that, where instead of dismissing Schnall as he's coming out, they actually kind of meet him halfway and say, "Hey, come here, I'll tell you."
Yeah,
I'll tell you. And then if you're the umpire and I come to you and I say, "Hey, Keith, like, the warnings for balls and strikes, like, I don't want to hear it again," right? And then you say something to me, yeah. But it was the dismissive nature of it that was really egregious, right? And
because you escalated it instead of de-escalating it.
Exactly. And that guy's obviously a really good umpire. Like, he's really good at being an umpire in terms of the balls and strikes and the outs and the safes and all. Like, you don't umpire in that game if you're not really good at it. But
sure,
there are finer points to it than just the balls and strikes. And I think that you see this stuff in the big leagues too, that the umpires don't give the respect to the players and the coaches that they expect from the players and the coaches. And I think that might be what this boils down to.
Fair.
And Yeah, I saw somebody tweet this too, and I thought this was kind of off. But somebody was like, we never see this happen in any other sports where coaches get rung in big games. There's no other sport like baseball where the coaches can stop the game and come and argue with an umpire. You can't do that in football. You can't do it in basketball. It's not the same. It's apples and oranges.
It's funny you bring it up because I was just going to say this, that like this is unique solely to baseball. That's not like, this is not to say that referees in basketball don't get chirped, because they do. Like, you're running up and down the court right next to the bench, like you're getting chirped. I'm sure they do it. Like, I know they do it in football. You've heard NFL films, like they're all mic'd up. You hear them yelling at guys. In hockey, I have to imagine that given hockey, they scream at them. I mean, you see it in soccer. Like, even the players are chirping the referees all the time. But baseball is so unique, and like, to your exactly what you said, like, you can stop the game and go out and argue what's going on. And I think that's where it comes off the rails a little bit with me in this situation, because it is so, arguing is such a part of the game that there's I don't want to say an art form to it, because it's not.
There is, though.
But there's a certain level of respect. There's a certain level of professionalism, is the better way to put it. There's a certain level of professionalism when you can go argue and do stuff. I have gone out to argue calls and have umpires say to me, I got that one wrong. I'm going to let you go for about 30 seconds to a minute. After that, you're going to go back to the dugout and we're good. And you just start saying whatever you want. Sometimes it diffuses the situation. Other times, like, you can get after them, but like, what it is. Like, they've admitted, hey, I missed that call. Like, okay, now I know. I mean, there was I'll never forget this. We had to play the plate. We were playing RIT, and there's a play the plate. Ball pops up from the catcher, right? So like, we were on defense. Ball pops, short hops our catcher. The kid slides in at the same time. They, it's not a contact, but like, they hit each other. Ball pops up, and the umpire was like in the play. And the ball, like, his reaction of the ball popping up, he caught the ball with his mask, which, for all of you rules enthusiasts at home, as a catcher or an umpire, you cannot corral the ball with your mask. So the ball was immediately dead, and the runner got third base. So instead of having 2 outs and a runner on second, we scored a run. We now have a runner on third, where pass ball, wild pitch, anything can score this run. So I came out, and I was like, yo, what just happened? And he was like, hey, that one's on me. I shouldn't have done that. And I was like, well, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. Like, don't you think you're a tad bit too close to the play? Like, you're on home plate here. Like, don't you think you could back up a little bit so that maybe you don't get hit by the runners and the ball? And he was like, yeah, that one's on me. Do you have anything else? But it diffused the situation, because I wanted to scream and yell, but he was like, hey man, my bad. Like, and I was like, okay, could you just back up a little bit for me? I don't know the mechanics of umpiring, but you're like on home plate here. Like, maybe back up a couple feet. You can still see the play. But like, there's a certain level of professionalism to it. And that, what we saw on Sunday afternoon, flew in the face of what is the professionalism of arguing and getting warnings. And look, I have done childish stuff, and I'm not proud of it, to get warnings. But it's to prove a point, right? Like, I have literally gone, ugh, when an umpire is balling what I think are strikes multiple times, just to get a warning. That's all I want. And it's like, hey, that's a warning. Do you want an explanation? Like, no, I know I got a warning. I'm acting like an idiot over here because I don't think you're good. Like, it's what it is. And then I'll shut up after that. But there's a certain level of professionals. Like, and after the game, you have it. If we're playing doubleheader, I have that guy the next game. I can't be mean to him all the time because I'm afraid that he's going to, make a call against my team. I don't want that. So like, you'll hear guys all the time, like, Don't do anything negative to my team because you're mad at me. Like, because we're human. That happens. And to think that it doesn't is incredibly naive. Like, I've seen it firsthand multiple times. There were times where coaches would be yelling at umpires, and then I would walk out and be like, hey, it's really hot out here. We got water in our dugout. I'll make sure that our trainer comes out here. Next thing you know, we're getting like 5 inches off the plate for strikes. It works. I'm telling you right now, it works. But I just think that what happened on Sunday again, and I don't want to continue to beat this horse, but it flies in the face of what you expect from an umpire of what is supposed to be that caliber in that spot in that big of a game. That's what happens in the first inning. Like, if that had happened in the 7th inning, when it had happened all game long and you'd warned them and told them, like, no one's going to bat an eye. But the fact that it happened the way that it did and how it happened on that stage with, again, how good of an umpire he's supposed to be, I have a really hard time. I have a really hard time with it. Do I think it was warranted? Yes, I do. Like, I think he should have been dumped when he came out screaming, "You missed 3." But again, I think it was escalated from the umpire on the same hand of getting to that point rather than just saying, hey, this is why you're warned. Arguing balls and strikes, I ain't going to let it fly today. Like, not going to hear it. Keep your team under wraps and we'll be good. Okay, done and done. Instead, we do the complete opposite and turn around, like, turn our back and then shoo a guy back to the dugout and then think that you're just going to turn around and walk away.
Yeah, he escalated it. I mean, I think that's, I'm sure Kevin Schnall wished that he could take back exactly how he reacted, but at a certain point, he's probably thinking, like, you're not going to punk me like that. Like, I deserve more than that. I deserve more respect than that in this situation. I just want to know why I'm warned, right? And it's unfortunate. I guess it is what it is at this point, but in summary, the World Series was awesome. The whole ride up to it was awesome. From teams making deep runs that probably had no business getting there, right? And I'm not even talking about Murray State. I'm talking about, like, Louisville. Like, they were a fringe team in the tournament to begin with and played great baseball for 3 weeks to get to where they did. Like, you got Murray State, which is obviously an unbelievable story for those guys to get there. And just the quality of the baseball, it's so high. And the event itself just continues to explode. And the titles, for all the SEC haters out there, like, you're going to have to hate for another year because that's 6 consecutive national titles out of the SEC. So until proven otherwise, for all those people who were like, well, 9 of the 13 teams didn't make it out of the hey, you haven't knocked them off in 6 years. The SEC is the best conference in baseball. It's not particularly close. And I think the end of the season results kind of speak to that. And, there's a lot of teams currently rebuilding right now, whether it's with freshmen, a lot of transfer portal activity. Like, it's the season's over, but the news cycle is still flying. I mean, you got guys committing, decommitting. We got coaching changes, complete rosters getting overhauled because of coaching changes. And, there's a lot of moving parts right now in college baseball. And, you can decide which side of the fence you want to be on with it, but it's a sign that the game matters, right? It's a sign that the game has grown. 10 years ago, we're not having these types of conversations, right? And, I know people have different thoughts on the portal and the current state of college baseball, and, like, you can stick to your old school ways and whatever. And, like, I get it. I have some of that in me too, but at the same time, you have to recognize that the game it's more talented, it's more visible, it's more interesting than it's ever been. And college baseball is on the upswing. It's going to continue to grow. You got schools pumping big time money into baseball over the country. Coastal's a prime example of that. Non-Power 4 school. It was no fluke that they got there, right? The whole Coastal Carolina is the underdog. Like, nah, that's not the case. They're as good as anybody in the country. They've been as good as anybody in the country for the last decade. Like, that team deserves to be there. That's their expectation now as a program. Like, uh, and that's what makes college baseball great is that you have some programs like that aren't Power Four schools that legitimately can go toe to toe. Most other sports, it's not the case. Basketball and football, if you don't play in a Power Four conference, you ain't winning a title. It ain't happening. It's just not happening. We've seen it with the college football playoff where these fringe, these smaller conference teams end up getting in and they get freaking pounded. Right? Same thing with basketball. Like, don't tell me that Villanova is a small school, blah, 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 whatever. Like, that's not how it works in college basketball. But college baseball is unique in that sense where, you have programs that are not in those Power Four conferences that can go toe to toe any day on any field in any atmosphere with any team in the country. And I think that's what makes college baseball awesome. And I hope to see Coastal back. I hope to see, more of these teams continue to pop up and put money into their programs because you can hem and haw about whatever thing that wants to piss you off and focus on the things that you disagree with. But by and large, college baseball is awesome right now, and I'm personally fired up to watch some more 9 months from now. So
Yeah, it's never been in a better spot. It's going to continue to get better, whether you like to admit it or not, because no one's committing to the transfer portal. So we're going to get a ton of people playing high-level college baseball next year. We're probably going to have more runs, just like we do every year, of teams that we're not expecting. The Murray States, the Indiana States, and it's going to be awesome. We're going to have more SEC team lose. Everyone will hit the panic button. And then maybe we see if we get another SEC champion next year.
I would say make a pick for your national champion next year, but we don't even know what the rosters are going to be. So,
yeah, I know, like the way too early.
Maybe we'll hold off on that when I just saw like 3 guys commit to Texas, UVA, and Mississippi State in the last like hour and a half. Like,
yeah.
I don't even know what freshmen are showing up on campus. Like, we'll revisit this in the fall when things settle down a little bit, but
we'll do it on December 2nd when the roster is 34.
After all the roster cuts, and maybe they can figure out what a DSA is, a designated student athlete. Maybe they can define what that is.
Oh, December 1st this year is a Monday. We generally record on Mondays, everybody. So maybe we'll answer for you December 4th when that podcast comes out.
Way too early. We're gonna get out ahead of the D1baseball.com top 25s, and we're gonna make our picks for Omaha in December of next year. See how that goes. We did okay this year. I think for the most part we picked about half the field. Which is
if we combined all of our picks, I think we would have nailed damn near the whole field. Yeah. The only ones we missed were A&M and UVA. Really,
those are some pretty big swing and misses. So
they were. Those were. We were down 0-2. We had to spread out, choke up, and fight off a bunch of pitches.
Yeah, and then we reversed Florida it this year, and everybody was like, "Yeah, Florida's going to figure it out." Just like they did last year, and Coastal Carolina and ECU took care of that for us. So, but no, college baseball is awesome. Obviously we do a lot of stuff that's focused on recruiting, and that's really a whole different ball of wax. The complexity of it and how you go about that has changed quite a bit. But when you look at the end product, like this Shores kid's 99 to 101 closing out a game.
It's a joke.
Like, the Gage kid throws
with movement, by the way. Like, it's not a straight 101. Like, it's 101 with movement.
Yeah, the Gage kid throws a no-hitter with 19 punchies. You're seeing some historic stuff from a talent perspective. You're seeing it from, performance perspective. I mean, that no-hitter was the first one since, 1960? think it was 1960, third one ever, and I think the previous two happened before 1960. So, they were. I don't even think they threw curveballs back then. I think they just threw fastballs back then. So it's like the old Babe Ruth. It's like the old Babe Ruth argument. They didn't even throw breaking balls back then. I don't know, 700 and whatever home runs.
Old Haas Redbirds out there spitting spitballs on 947 innings.
Throwing 4 complete games in 3 days.
Throwing both ends of a doubleheader. Well, it's my day to pitch. I'm going to go out there for 22 innings today.
Yeah. But anything else you want to add on the current state of college baseball? I mean, there's plenty of topics, but we're probably going to break those out into some other podcasts since they're.
No, I don't. I think we hammered the college baseball World Series pretty well.
It was awesome. Fired up to just see how it all unravels when we get back to this point next year. But awesome season. Like Division III baseball was awesome. Watched some of the Division III World Series. UW Whitewater was able to take that down. And then you got Tampa winning. I mean, shoot, I don't know how many championships Coach Urso has, but it might be in the double digits now. But it's just what a juggernaut they are. I mean, that's just what they've been able to do down there is just remarkable. Year in and year out,
and they were down. They came from behind. They had faced a lot of adversity, came back. I mean, Tampa's the class of Division II. I mean, they're a really good program. And Whitewater. I mean, Whitewater at Division III level did a tremendous job this year. I mean, I would probably classify them as a D3 blue blood.
I think that was their second national title.
Yeah, but I feel like they're there every year or every other year.
It's never one of the 10 UW schools. One of them always seems to end up there.
Yeah, usually it's them, but I mean, they play good baseball up there in Wisconsin. So yeah, no, they do a pretty good job of getting those guys. I think that it was all in all, it was a very good college baseball season for 90% of the parties involved. I'm not gonna say everything. That would be a lie. But here we are into the off season. Recruiting is heating up. See a bunch of stuff go on here over the course of the next couple of weeks, and we'll start talking more college baseball when we actually have an idea of what the rosters and everything will look like for next year.
Yeah, that's a topic for another podcast. We'll cover that one soon. So, all right. Well, thank you for listening, everybody. Tune in next week. We'll have some more college baseball and recruiting conversation. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening this week. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and smash that like button for us. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at EMD Baseball. If you want to find out what me and Keith do to help families and players navigate the recruiting process, go ahead and check us out on emdbaseball.com. Take a few minutes to check out our new online academy. I promise you'll get some good information out of that. Thanks again for listening. Check in with you next week.